You know, usually when you sell something, there's a pretty simple expectation of how it works. Like, think about a grocery store. You put a price tag on a carton of milk, someone walks in, they see the price, and they buy it.
Right, it's just entirely transactional. It's binary. I mean, the buyer doesn't ask for a tour of the dairy farm before deciding if the milk is worth the asking price.
Exactly. But then you look at selling a house, which is, for most people, their absolute largest financial asset, and suddenly that price tag is just an illusion.
Oh, completely.
The product is deeply emotional. Families have raised their kids there, they've celebrated holidays there, and you are stepping into this wildly unpredictable arena where logic often just takes a backseat to sentiment.
It is the absolute definition of high-stakes psychological theater.
It really is. So, welcome to the deep dive.
Mm.
Today we have a massive stack of highly detailed training materials from a top-tier real estate coaching program, and our mission is to unpack the ultimate blueprint for mastering the real estate listing presentation.
And this stuff is fascinating.
We are looking at the exact step-by-step process the pros use, from the moment they get a lead all the way to securing a signed contract right at the kitchen table. We're going to explore the psychological pricing strategies and the exact objection handling scripts used by top producers.
Yeah, and whether you are an agent looking to level up or you're just fascinated by the mechanics of high-stakes negotiation, there is a lot to uncover here.
So the materials set the stakes immediately, and it kind of changes how you view the entire real estate industry.
It does. The sources break the listing process into three distinct phases. You've got lead generation, the actual listing appointment itself, and the selling phase. And the data shows that mastering the appointment is the crucial linchpin for an agent's entire career. Like, it's the bottleneck for success.
So wait, why just the appointment? I mean, if you don't have leads, you don't have anyone to present to, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't lead generation have to be the most important part?
Well, you need leads, absolutely. But consider the psychology of the agent here. If you master the appointment, you eliminate the fear of failure.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. A well-polished, practiced presentation gives an agent the ultimate confidence to go prospect in the first place. If you know that getting your foot in the door practically guarantees you'll secure the listing and price it properly, you are going to be incredibly enthusiastic about finding more leads.
Because mastering that living room conversation just fuels the entire engine.
Precisely.
It's like taking an open book test. If you already have the answer key in your pocket, you aren't anxious about sitting down for the final exam. You just want to take the test and get your A.
That's a great way to look at it.
And according to the sources, a professional doesn't just walk into a living room and wing it. There are 20 distinct steps to this presentation process. But here's the fascinating part. The battle is often won before the agent ever pulls into the driveway.
Yes, the groundwork. 3 of those critical steps happen prior to the in-home presentation.
Groundwork is everything, right?
The sources emphasize a really rigid rule for top producers. Between setting the appointment and actually showing up, which ideally is a tight 3 to 5 day window, the agent must physically or digitally touch the client 5 separate times.
Hold on. 5 touches in just a few days.
Yeah, 5.
We are talking about what? A text message, a phone call, to run through a pre-qualifying script, an email, a physical letter or thank you note, and a bulky pre-appointment package dropped at their door.
That's the formula.
If I'm selling my house, I might think this agent is stalking me. Doesn't this backfire and just completely overwhelm the seller?
You'd think so, but the data on consumer behavior tells a completely different story. Consumers today are making decisions faster than ever before.
Right, because of the internet.
Exactly. We are conditioned by Amazon and instant reviews to evaluate credibility in seconds based on preparation and digital footprint. So by the time an agent actually shows up to the house, the seller's decision is often already 80% made.
Wow. So it's not desperation, it's just a display of overwhelming competence.
Precisely. By hitting different sensory inputs, a casual text, a professional email, a personal phone call, a tangible letter, you build a multidimensional relationship before you even shake hands.
It proves you aren't just an average agent who is going to show up and improvise.
Exactly. You secure the win by demonstrating your work ethic in advance.
And that physical pre-appointment package is a huge part of that, because in a world where everyone just wants a quick PDF or a link to a website, the training explicitly mandates sending a physical package.
The tangibility really matters.
Yeah, it arrives at their door in a professional folder. It's got the listing plan of action, online reviews, a blank copy of seller's disclosures, and a what happens next book.
Right. It sits on their kitchen counter for 2 days, silently anchoring your authority in their home. And inside that package is one of the most effective psychological tools in the entire curriculum.
Which is?
The home sale timeline.
Oh, let's unpack that, because this really stood out to me. What is the hidden fear this timeline is trying to address?
Well, when sellers sit down at the table, they have this visceral, almost subconscious fear that the moment they sign a listing contract, they have to start packing boxes.
Like they're getting kicked out of their own house.
Yeah, it causes massive unspoken anxiety. They look at the agent and think, if I sign this, I'm going to be homeless next week.
So by mapping out the dates visually in that pre-appointment package, you instantly relieve that tension.
Exactly.
You show them the actual math of the calendar. You say, look, if we sign the agreement today, it takes about a week to prepare the photos and the marketing. The house goes live next week. If it sells quickly, in a week to 10 days, we are still looking at 35 to 40 days to actually close the loan.
Right. The bank needs time.
And then plus, we can negotiate 30 days of post-close occupancy for you. So signing a piece of paper today means they actually aren't loading up the moving truck until mid-November.
You remove the emotional friction of the unknown. They can breathe. And because they've reviewed this package before you arrive, you walk into a much calmer environment.
So the seller is primed, their anxiety is lowered, they are impressed by the pre-work. Now the agent actually walks into the living room. Where do we start?
The sources map out the in-home presentation, and step 7 involves the agent confirming the home specs out loud, which honestly seems almost too basic to mention.
Yeah, like you walk in and you verify you still have 4 bedrooms, right, 2.5 baths. You still have a finished walkout lower level.
Right, it sounds mundane, but the sources stress that if you miss a detail, say, a finished bonus room above the garage, the seller will instantly doubt everything else you say.
Because in their mind, if you didn't know about the bonus room, your pricing math has to be wrong.
Exactly. It's purely about establishing credibility for the main event, which is the CMA, or comparative market analysis.
And this is where agents usually pull out the massive binders, right?
Yeah.
But the training says to set up the pricing discussion in 10 seconds or less.
10 seconds.
How do you condense a multi-million-dollar pricing strategy into 10 seconds?
You give them the 3 essential definitions without the fluff. You tell the seller, actives are current competition. Pendings are what buyers are actually choosing to buy right now. And solds are what will show up on your appraisal. Done.
That is so crisp.
That is the entire framework they need to understand the market.
But that leads to what feels like a massive contradiction in the sources. The rule is, stop confusing sellers with too much data.
Less is more.
Keep the CMA incredibly simple. Just 2 to 3 actives, 1 or 2 pendings, and 2 to 3 solds. But don't sellers expect you to justify your price with a mountain of complex math?
You'd think they want to see the work.
Yeah, don't they want to see all the spreadsheets to feel like you earned your commission?
Well, agents often overcomplicate this because of their own imposter syndrome. They want to prove their worth with a 50-page binder. But the goal isn't to impress them with your ability to print spreadsheets.
Right. What's the actual goal?
The goal is getting the contract signed at the table. A confused mind always says, let me think about it.
Oh, that makes sense.
If you hand a seller a giant binder of statistics, you give them a built-in excuse to hesitate. They will naturally say, wow, this is really thorough. You've given us a lot to chew on. Give us the weekend to review it.
It's like going to a diner with a 20-page menu. You just get completely paralyzed and end up ordering a grilled cheese because you can't process the options.
Exactly. You want to ask the seller what price they feel creates value based on a very small, curated set of highly relevant comps. You recommend the simple right price, and you ask for the signature.
And what happens if you don't get it right then?
The sources are very clear on the statistics here. If you leave that house without a signature to let them think about it, your chances of getting the listing drop by 50%.
Wait, 50%?
Half your chance gone just because you gave them too much homework.
Wow. Okay, so we've simplified the data so they don't get paralyzed, but that still leaves the biggest emotional hurdle, which is the actual dollar amount.
Always the hardest part.
Getting the price right is notoriously difficult because sellers always think their house is a castle. So how does a top agent ground them in reality without insulting them?
By utilizing a concept called future pacing. Before leaving the house, top agents psychologically prepare sellers for the reality of the market. There's a highly specific script the sources call the one of three things conversation.
I love the mechanics of this. How does that script play out?
So as the agent is wrapping up, they tell the seller that one of three things will inevitably happen in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, scenario one.
Scenario one, we get lots of showings and multiple offers. That means we priced it right.
Makes sense. And scenario two.
Scenario two, we get some showings but no offers. That means we are slightly too high and we will need to reevaluate our price in 14 days.
And the third.
Scenario three, crickets. No activity at all. That means we started way too high and need a major adjustment immediately.
It's masterful expectation management. You are planting the seed that a price reduction isn't a failure. It's just scenario two unfolding.
But the real magic happens when they face a seller who wants to just sit and wait for a higher price. The seller who says, "We aren't in a hurry to sell. Let's just leave the price high and see if someone bites."
Right. The training gives an exact script to handle this, centered around the idea that days on market is the enemy.
Yes.
How does an agent convince a stubborn seller that waiting is actually destroying their home's value?
They flip the perspective. When a seller objects to a price reduction, the agent asks them to remember when they were the buyer.
Oh, turning it around on them.
Exactly. The script goes, "When you bought this house, did you ask your agent how long it had been on the market?" The seller always says yes.
And then?
The agent asks, "Why?" And the seller is forced to admit, "Well, because if it had been sitting for a long time, we thought something was wrong with it, and we knew we could get a better deal."
I mean, think about how we all shop online. If you see a couch on Facebook Marketplace that's been listed for 9 weeks, your immediate thought isn't, "Wow, what a premium couch."
Right, not at all.
Your thought is, "Does it smell? Is the leg broken? I'm going to offer them half." We all have this bias.
The script traps them in their own logic. If they thought that way as a buyer, today's buyers are looking at their house exactly the same way.
The longer it sits, the more it becomes a stale asset.
Yes, and buyers think they can lowball. Days on market is the enemy to their home's value.
But let me challenge that from the agent's perspective. If I tell a seller we might have to drop the price in 2 weeks, doesn't that make me look like I don't believe in my own marketing plan?
That's a common fear.
Does it look like I'm anticipating failure?
It actually achieves the exact opposite. By future pacing the reduction, the agent fiercely protects their credibility.
How so?
Think about the alternative. If the house doesn't sell and you never warned them, who do they blame?
Oh, they blame you.
Exactly. They say your photos were bad or your marketing failed. But if you warn them at the kitchen table that showings but no offers means the price is slightly too high, then when that exact scenario unfolds 2 weeks later, you look like a prophet.
It completely shifts the blame from the agent's marketing to the market dynamics.
Yes, the market is speaking, exactly as you predicted.
That makes the conversation 2 weeks later an expected check-in, rather than this confrontational crisis.
Which brings us to the most critical phase, because even with all this setup, you are still asking someone for a signature on a massive financial document, or asking them to drop their price. People are going to resist.
Right, which brings us to the final piece of the blueprint mastering objections. The materials say the pros handle resistance using something called NLP.
NLP.
What actually is that? It sounds a bit like sci-fi mind control.
It stands for neuro-linguistic programming. Stripped of the jargon, it's about understanding how human beings process language under stress.
Okay, that makes sense.
When a seller is stressed, they don't process logic first. They process threat. The goal of NLP in this context is to use specific language patterns that bypass the logical defensive brain and soothe the emotional brain, lowering their cortisol and their defensive barriers.
And the SWIFT has outlined 5 specific rules for doing this.
Right.
Okay, rule 1 is always agree, never argue. Rule 2, smile and nod your head. Rule 3, use statements of agreement like, "I can appreciate that," or "I understand."
Very foundational stuff.
Yeah, those seem fairly standard for customer service.
Yeah.
But rule 4 is really interesting. Eliminate the words "but" or "however" from your vocabulary entirely. Replace them with the word "and."
Such a powerful shift.
Why does that one word make such a massive neurological difference?
Because the word but is an eraser. If you say, "I understand your point," B-U-T,
Yeah.
the listener's brain completely deletes the empathy.
All they hear is, "You are wrong," and here comes the argument.
Exactly. It triggers a defensive response. If you say, "I understand your point, and D, here is another thing to consider," you validate their reality while gently introducing new information. You stay on the same side of the table.
You avoid triggering that spike of defensiveness. And rule 5 is, always close after handling the objection.
Every handled objection is just another opportunity to ask for the signature.
Let's look at how this applies in the real world. The sources provide the exact scripts for the toughest seller objections. Let's unpack a few of these.
Sure.
Scenario 1, the discount agent objection. A seller says, hey, the last agent who was just here said they list the house for a 1% flat fee. Can you match that?
Classic. The agent uses the NLP rules to agree and pivot. But the underlying strategy here is to turn the competitor's perceived strength, their low price, into a fatal weakness.
Oh, that's clever.
The agent points out that the discounter is demonstrating a low-level ability to negotiate. The script essentially asks, if the other agent is willing to instantly discount their own income the moment you ask, how on earth are they going to stand up and fight for your sales price when a buyer tries to lowball you?
That is brilliant. You make the seller realize that cheaping out on the commission on the front end will actually cost them tens of thousands of dollars on the final sale price because they hired a weak negotiator. Okay, next scenario. The wait until spring objection. The seller says, you know what, the market is a bit soft, the holidays are coming, we're just going to take it off the market and wait until spring when prices go up.
This objection is driven by the cognitive bias of loss aversion. Sellers are terrified of leaving money on the table, so they delay.
Right.
The agent has to reframe the delay as the actual financial loss. The agent agrees, appreciates their perspective, and then asks, do you realize that waiting until spring means inventory goes up? Everyone else is waiting for spring too, which means you will face massive competition.
And what about the idea that prices will be higher in the spring?
The script addresses the relativity of the market. The agent explains that if you are waiting for your home's value to go up 10%, you will inevitably just pay 10% more for the house you are moving to.
Oh, because it's all relative.
Right. You aren't actually gaining any purchasing power by waiting. You are just delaying your life for an illusion of profit while taking on more competition.
Okay, last one. This is a tough one. The seller says, we actually have a friend who wants to buy the house, and their attorney is going to do all the paperwork for a few $100. We don't really need a real estate agent.
This objection assumes a real estate agent is just a highly paid paper pusher.
Which a lot of people think, honestly.
Yeah, they do. But the script dismantles that by focusing on the reality of a transaction. The agent explains that right now, there is a 2/3 chance of having to renegotiate something major during the transaction home inspections, low appraisals, financing falling through.
So the agent says, my value isn't filling in blanks on a contract. My value is getting you all the way to the closing table when the buyer's financing falls apart at the last minute.
Exactly.
It's like conversational martial arts. Instead of blocking a seller's punch, you use their own momentum to guide them to your conclusion.
And notice the demeanor throughout all these scripts. The agent never gets angry or flustered.
Right. These scripts don't make the agent defensive at all. They actually make the seller question their own logic.
They stay calm, they use the agree and pivot method, and they always end by asking if the seller is ready to move forward and sign the contract.
So, taking a step back, let's summarize what we've extracted from this massive stack of training materials. Mastering the listing presentation is clearly not about just showing up, being charming, and hoping for the best.
Not at all.
It is a highly structured psychological process. It starts days in advance with the 5 touches and the physical package to prove your competence and remove the fear of the unknown.
It relies on a simplified comparative market analysis to prevent analysis paralysis.
And utilizes the days on market strategy to ensure the home is priced correctly from the start while protecting the agent's credibility.
And it is all held together by a rigid, conflict-free method of objection handling that relies on validating the seller's emotions before introducing logic.
The beauty of this material is how universal it is.
Oh, it applies to everything.
Yeah, think about how this applies to you listening right now. Whether you're selling real estate, pitching a new business initiative to your boss, or just trying to persuade a stubborn friend.
Laying out a visual timeline to remove the fear of the unknown. Setting clear expectations for future pivots so you look like a strategist rather than a failure.
Agreeing before you overcome an objection rather than arguing. These are just universal tools for success in any high-stakes human interaction.
They really are.
Absolutely. You know, earlier we talked about how we all view that stale couch sitting on Facebook Marketplace. We just learned how real estate agents use the days on market concept to prove that a stagnant asset loses perceived value the longer it sits on the shelf.
That's true.
So here's a thought for you to mull over today. Think about your own life or career. What stagnant assets Maybe a delayed decision, a stalled creative project, or a tough conversation you've been avoiding are you holding on to right now?
And is the mere passage of time silently eating away at their value?
A powerful question. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.